my listener people, and I think it's really fun when I have clients will come in, listeners will come in and hopefully become my clients. And that's always been a real thrill for me. So those of you that I get to meet in person in my office, that's really cool. And as always, this show is sponsored by my firm, GQ Law. And if you want to get a free consultation with my firm, the number is 855-500-TRUST. And there are phone lines open, 888-344-1170. Our agenda for today is as follows. On Friday is the day when we veer away from, to a very large degree, away from talking about just legal stuff. And when we talk about the other side of wealth, and that is the wealth without the dollar signs. Today, we are going to have a conversation about just topics. What we have so many people that come on this show on Fridays that give us these tremendous suggestions and things to do for all different, varieties of health, mental healthiness and mental wealthiness and relationships. And I always feel bad, like, we get, 2 or 3 months down the road and we've got, 8 to 12 different people that have come on the show, and we keep moving on. It's like, well, wait a minute. Have we kind of processed the information that we're getting, or we just kind of like keep throwing stuff out there? One thing I learned from Darren Hardy, he's one of my business mentors, was there's no shortage of stuff out there to hear or to read or to watch. The problem, really, the difficulty, the challenge is actually retaining or processing. So you can hear all kinds of radio and see all kinds of TV and read all kinds of things about success and life and happiness and all that, but you can keep reading and going and going and going, but do you implement that? And that's been really a big challenge in my life, is trying to implement things. So I want to go over some of the stuff in this show for some of the guests that we had over the past couple of months. Okay, hopefully that's okay with you guys. And I want your input and your comments. And if you heard a show that you think was particularly impactful, or if you have an idea or suggestion for our listeners, please do not hesitate to call. Noah will take your call, and I will be online with you, and you can enjoy asking or sharing, and that would be great. 888-344-1170 is the number to call. Okay, so one of our favorite people that comes on this show regularly is Desi Carson. So Desi is she is a therapist. She deals with, and I don't have her resume sitting right in front of me. It's quite long what she does, but Desi's thing is that she helps people with different relationships. Okay. The one thing that we were talking about with Desi was, because we're at the beginning of the year, I was asking questions like, well, if we're at the beginning of the year and we set up our New Year's resolutions, what suggestions do you have? And her first thing was, don't make New Year's resolutions. Like, well, Desi, I want to talk about New Year's resolutions. And her thing was basically, well, I don't. We really need to not just get through January and then have them stop, or February, if we think we're really devoted. She says it's really working through your life all the time. It's not just get to December 31st and go, was I good this year, or did I stink at it? It's you self-evaluate, you set things out further. Like you have, every year you reset your 5-year goals, and, and every month you make sure that your 12 months goals are okay, because it's always 12 months out, and you have your different periods of time. Like one book that I've been reading quite a bit, and I really like to do this in my business, is 12 weeks. It's not a 52-week year, it's 12-week year, because I don't have to think so far out. It's not December 31st, what happened. It's what happens from, if today's day 1, what happens at the end of week 12. So you monitor 12 weeks, and you have 4-week cycles in between in 1 week. So it's 1 week, 4 week, 12 week. And obviously that keeps moving out, so we know where we are, 12 weeks in advance, and how are we doing and how things are averaging. And it's kind of exciting to do it that way. So Desi was saying that really it's not a matter of setting your New Year's resolution and saying, okay, this year I'm going to do it, man. Beach bod this year all the way. I'm just going to lose 60 pounds, and I'm going to be back to my junior high school weight. It's like, you got to be realistic for one thing. And then for second things, whatever you do has got to be sustainable. It has to fit in your schedule that you've had for a gajillion years. Yeah, you have to change some things, but are you going to be able to change everything? Or is there something that's manageable and sustainable? So she talks about work-life balance. And I don't believe there is no way to obtain a balance at all from anything. You're moving forward and making adjustments. I agree that we need to work on this balance between, we don't want to work, to where our entire life is consumed and that's all we have. Like if that's your default, and it is for, it is for a lot of us, it's like, I'm not comfortable, I'm unhappy, I'm just going to go work more, especially if those of us that are self-employed. I'm just going to go back to the office. It'll make me feel better if I just work till 10 o'clock at night. Then I'm a real martyr because I'm working really hard and I just go and work a lot. I bury myself in the office, and that's just not good. That's not a good balance. But then with his personal life, work-life balance, that's what Desi is talking about with personal life, is we need to be okay with having some random things happen and having some play and being able to take time out and feel good about it. And that was my biggest concern with her, because that's a problem that I struggle with a lot, is that there are things that I like to play, and there are certain things I like to do. I just like to make it so my play is
2 minutes
physical, so that it adds to my health and that type of thing. So Desi was saying that, being mindful, you control your time. You don't have to be so trapped in a cage of your schedule, but set out a schedule that's really specific. And that way you can know where your time is to play and your time is to work, and make sure you know where that is each day. For those that are retired, that's kind of a challenge that you really need to do, because you don't have this 8 or 10 or 12-hour block of work. You're filling it with other things that are just as important. Her suggestion was to actually block out time in a day. You actually block a schedule without anything scheduled. So it's like, okay, from 1 to 2, I have nothing scheduled. I'm just going to do randomly whatever I want, which I thought was pretty cool. All right. Then we went to Lisa Newman, who is a life coach, and was basically the same thing. I said, what about setting our goals for the year? What about our New Year's resolutions? And her thing was pretty similar to Desi, where she was saying, it's not really this resolution. Here's my New Year's resolution. I'm going to do this right away and I'm going to get going, because you end up kind of burning out, or you run out at the end of January or in February, which would be around now, and you'd be kind of running out like, oh, my New Year's resolution, it didn't quite work out like I intended. So I guess I failed. So I guess I'm just going to go back to the usual. But Lisa's big thing was, why are you doing that? What is your motivation? Because whatever you do, according to Lisa, which I subscribe to as well, is everything you do is based on a feeling. How will I feel when I get this done? What feeling am I going for? What am I trying to get accomplished? And you figure out your why. It's easier to set the goal. You're listening to The Word on Wealth. Today's Mental Health Day, Mental Wealth Day. To be part of the show, call 888-344-1170, 888-344-1170. And we're talking about a summary of all of our Friday shows in the past, right here on The Word on Wealth.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is Faith-Based Investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christian families don't understand this one thing. The money that you're saving for retirement helps fund the abortion industry as well as other liberal anti-family causes. It's the sad, dirty little secret of American investing world. And here's the good news, though. You probably also didn't know that just a few minutes of your time and we'll screen and clean your investments for you. There's no cost, no obligation. information, learn the truth about your own investment mix. Then the choice is yours. Remember, the word says when God's money is in the hands of the righteous, the people rejoice. Well, we also are fiduciary investment advisor representatives. That means that our firm makes a pledge to always act in your best interest. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com. Download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing, or call me at 931-RETIRED. And please don't forget, listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Talk.
Gary, your team at GQ Law are experts at solving IRS and state tax problems. Talk about that.
When people have a tax problem, it tends to really stress them out. And one of the things we've been able to do is figure out how to resolve tax problems. One thing we might be doing is setting up a payment plan or getting a collection delay, maybe getting a determination that the person shouldn't have to pay the taxes at all. We do offers and compromise. We do audit reconsiderations. And one of the things that's a really powerful tool that some people don't recognize is sometimes bankruptcy can be used to actually eliminate taxes when there's certain conditions of the code that are met. So we can do all kinds of things. After we analyze your situation, we can figure out what's available, discuss your options, and figure out which ones to implement, what it's going to cost, how long it's going to take. And we can get people out from under all kinds of tax problems so they can sleep again. That's our goal.
Request your free initial consultation. GQLaw.com, 855-500-TRUST. GQ Law.
Bush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
You're live.
Happy Friday. Welcome to Word on Wealth. Please give us a call and ask your questions about this show. I'm going over some of the things that I've learned from this show from interviewing our guests over the past several months on our regular Friday shows. That gives us a lot of shows to cover. And I just want to, we read a lot of books. We have, we have theories. We can watch YouTube videos or instructional videos or go to seminars and webinars and all that. And we have all this information, and not having enough information is not the problem. Having information and not being able to process it, that's really the problem or the issue that we deal with. So I thought we'd, go review some of that. We'll get more, like next week, we'll have more guests and we'll keep pouring more information in your hopper. So there's things that you can learn about. And we always love to do that for our listeners here. If you want to be part of the show and ask me a question or make a comment about how you are doing this year, what things have you found? What tools are you using? Regardless of your life station, what tools are you using? Whatever they are, it doesn't matter what they are. I just want to know what they are to kind of track what you're doing or to keep you motivated and inspired throughout the year, throughout your day. I'd love to hear from you. 888-344-1170. Life coach Lisa Newman suggested that we decide why we're doing something. You have a foundation for what you're setting if you're going to set a goal, and that is, what do you want to get accomplished? How do you want to feel at the end? Okay, if by such and such a date I've read a book for fun, 4 times a week. I'm going to do that for 6 months. And if I do it, how am I going to feel? Well, you're going to feel good about it because you set a goal and because that thing that you're doing is something that you wanted to do, and set the goal and do it. And as far as like what keeps us from doing it, there are a lot of things that keep us from doing it. And that is we we don't like to make adjustments in our life. Now, one thing Lisa commented on was Mel Robbins' book called The 5-Second Rule. Mel Robbins is a very famous reporter and author, and she wrote a book called The 5-Second Rule. And her thing was like, within the first 5 seconds, that's usually when your brain kind of functions. I think it's kind of a spiritual thing, but the first 5 seconds of thought and making a decision usually is what you end up deciding to do. You could, whatever you thought of it immediately, then you can kind of toy around with it and think of other things and changes and options and all that. And according to Mel Robbins, which I think is a great theory and it works a lot, is that your first impression is usually the best because you're in the situation, you're moving forward. And that's the same thing with as you're acting, when it's time to do your reading or time to do that thing that you set on your goal or you're set out to do. Just when you think about it, do it. Just do it, get it done. And the other thing, I love this about what Lisa was explaining, and that is be okay with like 80%. So if you say, I'm going to read my book 5 days a week for pleasure, just for fun reading. It can be personal development or whatever, but I'm going to just read, has nothing to do with my business. I'm going to read 5 days this week. And I read 3. Well, 3 is not bad. 3 is 60. Yeah, 3 is 60%. 4 would be 80%. So if my goal is to read 5 and I only read 4, I'm okay because 80% is pretty good. If I say I'm going to read 4 days and I only read 3, that's fine because I'm still doing pretty well and you feel satisfied and you can check it off. I found a tool. It's an app. I thought it was pretty interesting and I uploaded it called Habits. It's just this tracking software. And basically what you do is you set up whatever your goals are, whatever you want to do, whatever you're, think you're going to get accomplished or want to get accomplished. And it's this checklist. So it just comes up every day and I check off what I'm going to do. Like I'm supposed to sleep 6 hours. So did I do that on Monday? Yeah, it looks like I did. Did I do it on Tuesday? Yeah. So I'm pretty good about getting my 6 hours of sleep and I can check all those lists out as we go along. I have affirmations. I have 7 decisions for success. I have study the gospel. I can't remember how many minutes a week. I don't have a lot. I do 50 minutes a week. And that's easy to pretty much check off if I spend 45 minutes listening to a great podcast or something on like the New Testament or whatever. But that stuff helps me. I like checklists. I have checklists to remind me to do my checklist. So that's why I use my phone for a lot of that kind of stuff and try to stay without getting distracted. All right. Then we move on. Let's go. We got Matt Quackenbush, who's a trauma therapist. He, in the past 17 years, has been providing therapy to a lot of first responders. That's his big thing now. The company that he's partnered with, they have him as their presenter, and he goes a couple times a month, and they fly him all over the United States, literally coast to coast, meeting with first responder groups. And that's any type of first responder, whether it's police or medical or firefighting. And because they have unique problems to their situation with, trying to keep people alive in emergency situations. And he does these lectures to, sometimes there's 60 people, sometimes there's 2,000 or 3,000. So he loves to do that. He's really good. He's very popular because of what he talks about. So I get him to come on the show once in a while, and his name sounds very familiar, right? Sounds a lot like my last name because he is my son. I'm very proud of Matt. He's my eldest. He's got 4 kids. The youngest is 7. The oldest is 16. Yes, I have a 16-year-old grandson, Ezra. He's amazing. Such a cool kid. All right. So he talks about when you're trying to, get yourself put together and kind of keep yourself mentally healthy, that there's a couple things you need to do. Is that you have to recognize that there are going to be events in your life that cause like a super amount of stress during a particular period of time, and just realize it's just going to happen. It will go, it'll pass. Tony Robbins is the guy. His big thing that I really loved his talk. He did some lectures on what he calls seasons. And he says, after every winter, there's a spring. After every summer, there's fall. After every fall, there's winter. Sometimes summer is longer, sometimes it's shorter, sometimes winter is longer, sometimes it's shorter, but there's just these seasons in our lives. So it's not always going to be horrible. You're going to go through seasons and be okay with that and the sacrifices that you're making. Self-care, a big thing we hear about, not selfish care where all you're doing is thinking about yourself, screw the world. I don't really care. I want you to serve me. I want you to do this, not that. It's more like take the time like Desi and Lisa were suggesting where you are, writing in journals because that helps you think about your day and points you to the direction of things that you appreciate. That kind of stuff really, really works. It's helped me a lot in my days where they're very full and I've got a lot going on. It's really cool to have these things to do, right? You don't neglect your own needs. That's the self-care thing. Take care of your own needs, what you need. If you need to get to the doctor, if you need to have some time away, be okay with that. Make those arrangements. People that love you, they don't mind. They're not going to feel burdened. It's like, you need to do that. You need to take that time, do it. He says, we usually like to give, go. And he says, that's okay, but we need to find the time to do the things that are important along the way as well. So, his suggestion, which I kind of my favorite one of the Matt suggestions, and because a lot of people say, be present, be real, be authentic, be, these different terms that we use because they work, is he was saying, be deliberate. And what I liked about this is he was saying that enjoy what you're doing while you're doing it. He says, and this is supported by lots of research too, is be deliberate in whatever you're doing. If you're eating lunch, eat lunch. Okay. Don't be working on some other project and trying to send out emails while you're stuffing your face. Take a short lunch if you got that stuff. Take a 15-minute lunch, take a 20-minute lunch, but eat lunch while you're eating lunch. Be really deliberate. This is my time to eat. I'm taking a break from thinking about that. And then you won't think about it for that period of time. And it gives you this breather. Okay. The other, so the way I believe that works is, sometimes the breather is just take the long way. And I've done that. I do it sometimes. I just drive, coming from San Diego, because I was at a hearing or something downtown. I got to get back up to my office, which is almost in North County, San Diego, is I take the long way. I go past the bay because I love to water ski and wakeboard and barefoot ski. I love water. I love my little boat that I have. And so I drive by the bay and just kind of have my little dreamy time as I'm driving past the bay for that 5 minutes of, hey, we're going to get down here soon. Winter's going to be, the water's nice and calm and we should get down here. And I just love that kind of thing where I drive by the San Diego waterfront, on my way somewhere. It just takes, you're going out of the way 4 or 5 blocks, but who cares? It's a wonderful break. And I'm trying to be deliberate about that stuff. But the thing about taking these breaks and being deliberate, this was example. Okay. So from me physically, the way I've learned that is like with mountain biking, I mountain bike about 3 days a week. Usually they're kind of sprint type things where we're going just really hard for, 50 minutes to an hour and 5 minutes. And we do that 3 days a week. And there's some times when heart rate is up at the max level, going uphill, going downhill, because mountain biking is just really thrilling. It's very athletic. It's kind of gets my heart pumping and my adrenaline shooting all over the place, which I love. So there's this one particular climb. We start in the morning at 5:45. We have our lights and stuff on because it's dark, but best time to ride. It's nice and cool. Nobody on the trails. And we're riding up these hills, and it'll take us sometimes about 15 to 18 to 20 minutes to get to the top of the hill. And it's a pretty hard push. Well, if you just push all the way to the top, that's fine. We do that. You get to the top and it's really like trying to catch your breath.
2 minutes
is kind of difficult. But what I did the other day is I kind of went up to this one point and I had to stop to make some adjustment. My computer wasn't on. So I made some adjustment. It took me about a minute to get my computer out of my pocket, turn it on, get it set and say go and then start again. And the difference when I started out, my heart rate was back down, my breathing was back down, and I was able to go up this really steep part very quickly compared to what I normally do because I just took like a 1 minute break out of a 20-minute segment. So it's, we do that with our life, that if we push, okay, that works sometimes, but it's not great for you. According to Matthew, he says you need to take the time to take that break, that breather, that 1 minute readjustment. Do that during lunch. Not only is it good for you, it's I mean, health wise and labor law wise, you got to do it, but just take the time away and be intentional while you're eating lunch. Eat lunch. Oh, there's so many wonderful things. Matt's thing, I could go on for days. Then you got Kip Harris. I want to talk about Kip when we come back. Kip Harris was the guy that he wrote that book, Improbable Joy. And I do have copies. And if you want a copy of Kip's book, I will send it to you for free, but you have to call the show. So you got to call the show and leave your name and phone number, and we can get back to you, or your name and email, we can get back to you. But the book is called Improbable Joy. Kip is a guy that survived cancer. 3 times. Crazy. But I want to talk to you about what he learned from that. And it's helped me kind of focus. And we're going to talk about that coming up next. To be part of the show, you're going to call 888-344-1170. If you want a copy of Kip's book, I've got 2 of them. 888-344-1170. Call, give us your name and number so we can call you back and get your address and send you the book. We'll be right back here on the Word on Wealth.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We're here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST. Legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500.
You're live. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Word on Wealth, my friends. Thank you for being along and listening here. If you want to get a copy of Kip Harris's book called Improbable Joy, you call got to call the radio station. There's only 2. Okay. They're going to go fast. 888-344-1170, 888-344-1170. Kip Harris was on our show. And the book they wrote is called Improbable Joy, a 3-time cancer survivor's journey to overcoming fear and pain. We are talking, and his big thing that he was emphasizing in his book, and when we had him on the air for his interview, it's pretty cool. He was talking about basically kind of in summary. I mean, there's a lot more to it, but we don't have time. I mean, he was on with us for half an hour, and he obviously knows the stuff. He wrote the book, technically, and really wrote the book on this stuff. He had cancer, got through it, realized he'd got through it. Okay, I'm doing fine. Now my life is going to get back on track. Then he got cancer again. Okay. And then he was more in the mindset of, oh no, I have cancer. I have to live my life. And so his thing was he was saying not fighting, stop fighting cancer, which was, when I heard that and I read that was one of the speaking topics that we were going to go over, I thought, I'm horrified. What do you mean? We have our pink days and all these things to start to fight cancer. And he says, no, what I mean is when we fight cancer, we are ultimately fighting pain and anguish. And when we choose to focus on fighting cancer, i.e. fighting pain and anguish, then we neglect seeing the amazing love and joy that coexists with those horrible moments. It's kind of like a Viktor Frankl situation. The guy that was in the Jewish concentration camps, and his captors were experimenting on his body, doing all these horrible things surgically. His book is incredible, by Viktor Frankl, amazing guy. And it's a lot like Kip was talking about, where you realize, which Kip did, is he realized that the cancer and this horrible pain that he was going through, it could ruin his body. It could destroy his body, could end his life eventually. But he said, if that's all he focused on, then he missed out on the opportunity of things that are going, happening in his life. His theory, which I really liked hearing, it was so cool, is he said, we have to recognize that horrible things and wonderful things run in parallel, like they'll run at the same time. And so he found that if all you're focused on is, I'm going to just get this part of my life just stinks, it's horrible, whatever it is, you're having a hard time in your business, you're having a hard time in a relationship, you're having a hard time with a kid, you're having a hard time physically. We all know those things. We've all had those moments. Like, your body's, falling apart, and it's like, now you're mad about, great, I just, if I could just get this hip replaced, then I'll be happy. And you just kind of like keep pushing, and you're miserable because you feel that when you get to that point, and there's this, when I get through and I get my surgery and the surgery is successful, then I'm going to feel good. I'm going to be happy and I'll be a nice guy. And then you get the surgery and it fails, or you get the surgery and you're still in pain, or it's not quite like what you anticipated. And then you're miserable again. And Kip's point was, the third time he went through cancer, he was down to he was a skeleton, and he hadn't lost his life, and he hadn't literally lost his life, because he realized that incredible love and joy coexist with horribleness. And so he pushes through, and he wrote this book, and it's really good. It's a short read. It's not super long. It's just inspirational for kids and adults about working through, finding joy, intentionally looking. You have to put in the effort to look. You have to look for joy. You have to find joy. Living through the difficulties. In his case, it was living through through the cancer and all the surgeries and the torturous situation that you go through and all that. And he says, it's hard to be vulnerable because we just want to be independent. We're all that way. We really are. We don't want to just be dependent and feel like we're mooching off people. But his thing, which, I endorse it and subscribe to this theory, is like, you have to be that way. You have to let people help you. And sometimes receiving help is even more difficult than giving help. And so his humility helped him get through that stuff. And he didn't wish his life away anymore. He decided to not be a victim. And I asked him, well, what do you do? I mean, if what if, what if my friend gets that way? What do I do? Do I get really mad about it? And, how do I talk to somebody who's literally having their body come apart with cancer and an illness or something like that? And, he just said, we're never told life would be easy. He says, don't be a victim. Don't be saying, why me? Why me? Why me? Because really the question is, if you say, why me? Really the answer is another question like, well, why not me? It's not, nobody's picking on me. It just happens. Why do I have to go through the test? I don't know. Why would somebody else have to go through the test instead of you? You just are. We are not meant, we actually had a lady that called up and commented, and she just said, we're not meant to just be happy. We're meant to be on earth in this world to find joy, which I love that. Okay. Barry Shore, the ambassador of joy. We have,
and you know what I love about Barry, and I'm glad that you brought him up, Gary. I've been thinking about, he's been on my mind a lot lately. One, he's going to be on my show soon. Two, I'm going through some stuff behind the scenes. And when you really think about it, if there's anybody that has a right to complain, if you know his story, and I urge people to check out his story, go to barryshore.com, where he basically overnight became a quadriplegic. If there's anybody that has right to complain, it's Barry. But he doesn't. That's the thing. He gets up each and every day, and he finds so many different ways to be thankful, to be grateful, and to share that with everybody else so that they can have a reason to smile.
Yeah, it's when he's on the show, it's fun. He's really he's boisterous, and he's happy, and he has acronyms for everything. And but yeah, I can't imagine going through that. And you hear about people like Barry, and we hear it from Barry. He really is. He's kind of the self-proclaimed ambassador of joy. He wrote a book called The Joy of Living. Actually, he says you can get the book free. And it's barryshore.com/ebook. So Barry Shore, BARRYSHORE.com/ebook. And you get his book free. I have the book. I went on, anytime I have a guest, I go on Amazon and order 4 or 5 copies so I can give them away, because I think they're really cool. Just the fact that people will come on my show and talk, I'm just so, I don't know, it kind of blows me away. It's like, why would you do that? And they do, and they love it. And I just feel so honored to have people like Barry and Matt and Lisa and Desi and all of our.
Another one we haven't had on in a while, but he's very similar to Barry as well, is Edwin Edebiri. And he's basically run into people he always wakes up with an excuse to be happy, or not with an excuse, with the intention of being happy.
Right.
He ran into somebody who, had he not ran into, would have taken his own life, completely changed turned his life around.
Yeah. His story is wonderful. I mean, it's his life, and he lives it, and he shares it with people.
Wait a minute.
And I don't think it's easy for any of these people to do this. Like Barry, he really, if we called him right now, Barry would probably answer the phone. He'd probably be off doing something or giving a seminar or something like that, and he would come on. He's that willing to talk to people and share what he's doing. So his acronym is funny. He says, Gary, what I'm doing lately is I'm doing dog poop. And I go, what are you talking about? He says, doing of good. It's the doing of good. And you're going to get the rest of the acronym coming up right after we take a quick break on Barry's acronym for being happy and joyful. You're going to get that here on the Word on Wealth. And I want you to be part of the show. You can either get Barry's free book by his website, or you can call me 888-344-1170, and I will send you Kip's free book. Coming back in a minute here on the Word on Wealth.
Do you want me to cold call Barry, see if we can get him on?
855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
You're live.
Welcome back to the Word on Wealth. This is Gary Quackenbush and Noah Dingley. So happy to have you along here. We are in summary mode. Going back, we have had so many fantastic guests on here on our fantastic Friday, which we call a wealth of joy, because the show is the Word on Wealth. And Monday through Thursday, the wealth has a dollar sign in front of it. But on Friday, it's the wealth does not. It's finding joy and a wealth of joy. And that's why we have different guests, all the way from people that have these new products to keep you healthy and strong, that I think are worthy of talking about. And also, like on Tuesday I was on the education. We had a lady that's talking about sugar and how to beat the sugar habit, which is really good. We're going to get her on in the next within the next month or so. We'll have her on to talk about other things. You know, it's basically healthy body, healthy minds.
Yeah, people might say, well, what does sugar have to do with joy? Well, if you're healthy, you're living better. And if you're living better, you're happier. And if you're happier, you might be feeling a sense of joy, Gary.
Everything makes everything. That I totally could not agree with you more, because when you find it's just like most people, if you're struggling with something, you know, it's like, I don't know, it's just sometimes it's hard. We kind of struggle with things and then we just feel miserable. And it's like, well, let's not struggle with things. If you feel good, no matter what that is, whatever the status of your body is, we can always, you know, do a little bit more, whether it's sleep a little bit more, be a little more comfortable, you know, all these things we're talking about. We're not.
Well, as you mentioned, you were talking last segment with Kip, you know, talking about improbable joy.
Yeah.
Joy isn't necessarily related to being happy all the time. You can be going through some really tough times that still leads you to a joyful mindset.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that I mean, and that's exactly it. It's the difference between joy and happiness, because we're not always happy, but we should look for joy, because joy is more, to me, joy has more meaning. It's
100%.
It's more long lasting, you know, and we find joy. And it's, you know, a lot of this stuff, it's, you know, I don't want to be trite, and I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to be kind of careless on the show either, because a lot of people talk about, you know, joy and how to be happy and the queen of happiness and stuff like that, which I get and I understand that. But with a lot of things, I mean, I compare it a lot to athletics. You read books and stuff about athletes that are just out, you know, world-class athletes. And the biggest thing for athletes is inflammation, and how to recover and get the inflammation in your body back down so that you can then perform again, because you have the lactic acid buildup and these things going on with your body physically. And that happens with our brains too, but we don't realize what it is, because it's not like, it's not like physically where you get done with a race or something really physical exertion and you're breathing hard and you're sweaty, and then the next day your muscles are really sore. So you got to go through these stretching exercises or do your rollers, stuff like that, to help your muscles, you get kind of cleared back out so they can go and do it again. We don't do that with our brains, because our poor brains, we just keep, you know, we push it, we put it through something super stressful and that requires all kinds of thinking and energy and whatever. And then we don't stop, and we don't rest. We don't get a break. We don't have fun. We don't.
It's that mindset where you think, okay, I can handle it all. I can handle the work. I can handle the family. I can handle, you know, this. And then you suddenly realize you're overtasking yourself, and your body and sometimes your mind, they take a back seat, and you do that a little too often, you're not going to be in a good spot.
Exactly. Well, it's like, you know, a job like you have, Noah, where, you know, you're running a clock all day long. I mean, there's these pieces and segments, and every break that we have on my show, every, you know, whatever the quarter-hour breaks and stuff, there's all these things that you're putting in that they change, and the time moves around, and there's this constant driving schedule, and you can't just say, oh, okay, I'm going to go take a break for an hour. It's like, it doesn't happen. But, you know, if you keep doing that and that's all you did, and you did it day and night, and then you never kind of took time for self-care, for prayer, for,
well, that's why I like, you know,
whatever.
Sometimes I'll take a day for me and my wife, like
Yes.
Valentine's Day. That was important for me because we got engaged on that day. So I took the day off. Just little things like that. People might not think they're a big deal. In the end, those deals are huge.
Absolutely. They're life-changing. They help you do what you need to do, you know, getting through, you know, and finding joy in your life. Those are the things you've got to find that. I know Tony Robbins is a big, you know, I just, I consider him a mentor of mine because I studied a lot of his materials back when he wasn't even popular. And, a lot of what he does has to do with, kind of being able to kind of deal with things. And his was, a guy like him, he's doing all these seminars and he's in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and he's helping feeding millions of people. I mean, really big numbers of everything. And he's married, and he was talking about his relationship with, he and his wife and his kids. And I'm going, wait a minute, you can't have kids, you're too busy. And his thing was, he and his wife have just decided we're going to be running in all different directions, and that's okay. We just have to figure out when we're not going to run in different directions. And they go like once a month, they spend the whole weekend just with phones off, disconnected, and they're just together alone. Once a year, they take a week break to talk about what's going to happen over the next year. And then, and they have their regular weekly dates, but it was just really interesting. And that's what, my wife, Cheryl, and I, everybody has their days full. I don't care whether you're working or retired or self-employed or making a fortune or making tiny, it doesn't matter. Your days are filled with what your days are filled with. We just do that. We've all got 24 hours a day. And then you have to figure out what you need to do. And I always say you need to take the time to do things you need to do along the way. And one of the things is figuring out relationships and self-care. And with you and Cammie, it's like, if you set times now that you realize you're going to both be very busy, got a lot going on in your life, and you have certain things, okay, we're going to make sure that we do one of these things every month, and we're going to do this every Friday night or Saturday night. You do that, and early on it's a little easier. As you get with more on your schedule, sometimes you tend to want to slip. But if you make commitments to your spouse and to yourself and all that, you're going to do these certain things. Okay, we're going to do at least one of these every month, and we're going to do at least one of these every year, and you stick to it. It makes it so that you can get through to that next one. Not that everything's agonizing in between, but it's something to look forward to. And anticipation is sometimes it's actually better than the experience. The anticipation, the planning, the getting ready for is half or sometimes 3/4 of the experience, getting ready for the event, because the event sometimes doesn't take as long as the planning does. But I think those are the things that we're talking about with all this, with Tony Robbins and Mel Gibbons and, all these, people that kind of make a living telling us how to find joy and how to be happy, like Barry Shore and Edwin Edebiri. Theirs is really be about your things, be about doing good, go about doing good, go about, doing, helping other people along the path. And we all can have that. We can all do that. That's, when we get married, it's this wonderful thing where you now have made a commitment to help that person along their path. And you're not going to like give up your path, because you still have your path and you have your responsibilities for yourself, for self-care, for healthcare and all that. And you need to do that so that you're healthy and you're recovered and mentally stable and working together, so that now you can help your partner, your spouse, to get through times too. So it's like, you have to take care of yourself to be able to take care of other people. You need to look for places, you need to work and search for and find ways to find joy and satisfaction and fulfillment in your life. And then you're happier. It happens as you go along. In general, overall, you're more joyous, you're more happy, and then you can be a better person. You can give more. And that's what God wants us to do. I mean, that's what Jesus Christ gave his whole life doing that. His short life was just giving, being with people that needed his help and providing that help and teaching them how to obtain that help. I think that's the model that we have. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what we're here for. I love that. So this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you chiming in there, Noah. And I know you got a lot going on. I appreciate you
2 minutes
the time. And I know we got a couple minutes left on this show. If you guys have not had a chance to get your trust reviewed, your estate plan, all the type of work that I can do for you, call me 855-500-TRUST. I'd be happy to help you with your wealth transfer plan, how to get your wealth that you've worked so hard. Whatever you have, it's all you have. It's everything. How do we get everything you have to your loved ones? How do you get everything transferred to your family safely carefully protected and effective. We can help you with that. 855-500-TRUST. Please go to my website, easy pleasy, GQ, like Gary Quackenbush, gqlaw.com. There's a free book called Living Trust Basics. It will help you understand living trust. If one of your kids doesn't have a will or trust and they've got kids, they really need to get one, because part of the estate plan is your guardian designation. If something happened to the parents, who's going to take care of minor children? It has to be somebody. It's either going to be somebody they choose or somebody that the state of California chooses. Okay. The other things on my website is there's a book called Accidentally Self-Employed. It tells my personal story on how I became self-employed, not intentionally happened, but that's okay. 30 years ago, I've been good since. I was forced. I was kind of compelled, kind of pushed into it, and I could not be happier because of that decision. And the book, Accidentally Self-Employed, these are ebooks that get emailed to you. It describes the difference between a corporation, a partnership, a limited partnership, a limited liability company, and how they're developed and managed and all that. It's really good. It's short. These are all short books called Accidentally Self-Employed. Whether you're going to choose to be incorporated or an LLC, that helps you kind of figure out and go down that road. The other thing, you have a book on there called Tax Bankruptcy. It goes more than just bankruptcy. It talks about tax problem solving, other options. And so if you have one of those situations or a friend does, get that book and give it to him. Those things are available on gqlaw.com. So go to gqlaw.com.
Tell a friend about the Word on Wealth, featured since 1995 with
Maybe the minute cue that time, buddy.
Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning.
Since we've started, the old clock it's taken some time to get used to. Hey, Janice, we had a caller and she